Welcome to today's leadership session. If you have ever felt frustrated because big gains in your leadership development doesn't seem to come as quickly as you would want it to, you're not alone. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most powerful tools for leadership growth, the surprising power of small habits. This is inspired by James Clear's Atomic Habits, by his book, Atomic Habits. And we want to highlight how those tiny, consistent changes in your daily routine can shape you into a more effective and inspiring leader. In Atomic Habit, Claire highlights the aggregation of marginal gains. It's like compounded interest. James Clear's idea of 1% improvement can work wonders for you as a leader. Every small improvement in how you manage meetings, communicate with your team, give feedback, will accumulate over time. One tiny change might seem insignificant, but trust me, over time, those small steps will compound into extraordinary results for you. So how can you apply this concept to your leadership right now? Let's look at some practical steps. So I love to apply the 80-20 rule to pretty much everything. So if you apply that rule to your meetings, you can say that 80% of the productivity that you got, the results that you got from that meeting, you actually got in 20% of the time that you spent in that meeting. And for that extra 80% of time you spend in that meeting, we're kind of repeating things over, spinning our wheels, going off topic. It's not really as effective as it could be. So when you go in with the intention of making your meetings more purposeful, you set a time frame, you set a clear agenda. We want to ensure that everybody's voice is heard. So everyone's going to have about a minute or 2 minutes, depends on the length of the meeting and the topic being discussed. This will set the precedence. So when we're kind of closing down, asking somebody to kind of bring their thing to a conclusion, they don't need to feel like you're picking on them or offended because everyone has the same 2 minutes. And for those people that are not inclined to really speak up, because you're encouraging them and giving them space, you're going to find that you help them to blossom and you're going to help to benefit from the things that they have to share. And this rolls into our next point, improving our active listening and remembering communication is much more than the words that are spoken. So you as a leader are looking at the body language of those on your team. You're able to read the tone in their voice. You're able to make sure that you're paying good attention to them, because a lot of times we're kind of in a rush. We want to get our point across, and we allow them to speak, and then we just from the point that we know what we want to say. But when we are doing the active listening, we are paying attention to nothing else. We just want to hear what that individual has to say. And we're going to make sure that we are engaged by asking questions, asking clarifying questions, asking them to expand on something, right? You repeat it and summarize it to make sure that you really walk away with the same understanding and you're on the same page. Because how often have we walked out of a situation with completely different frame points, completely different kind of points of reference, completely different things that we're going to focus on, different interpretation of the conversation that we just had. But when we are doing the active listening, asking clarifying questions, right, making sure that everybody has the action points of what I'm going to do, what you're going to do, what is going to be done here, and the next steps, that saves a world of time and confusion and miscommunication. So active listening is something that we can all definitely improve on. 1%, remember, it's small increments. So we're not looking to make dramatic changes up front. We've seen that those are not sustainable. We want to, as he said in Atomic Habits, the 1% improvement on all of these points. So you as a leader want to have your own goals. Set one leadership goal to improve each week, like enhancing your emotional intelligence or learning a better way to motivate your team. Small focused goals will help you improve consistently. So write down right now one leadership skill that you want to improve this week. and break it down into actionable steps. What steps will you take that by next week, you'll be able to see that 1%, you can check that box. And remembering that 1% improvement doesn't always have to be in exactly the same area. So maybe this week we're looking at active listening. Next week, we may be looking to inspire the team. Next week, we may be looking at something else within the organization. Another great point that was made in the book is the plateau of latent potential. So this is where you as a leader may feel frustrated that you're putting in the effort, you're putting in the work, but you're not seeing any results. This is the plateau of latent potential. Just like sometimes we're working out or we're doing something else, they said it takes about 6 weeks of consistently working out for us as the individual to start seeing gains. And it will take about 12 weeks for other people around you that know you to start noticing those gains. So we can't look at getting discouraged because we're not seeing those gains. You want to just be consistent and make it part of kind of who you are. This is how you operate. Instead of saying I'm working out maybe to get this gain, I work out because this is part of who I am. I'm a good manager. I'm a good leader. I motivate my team. I maximize the time we spend in meetings because that's how I lead, not necessarily because it's a means to an end in that moment. Because when we look at it from that perspective, this is where we can kind of fizzle out, get discouraged, and then we kind of slide back into our previous habits. So always have the expectation that you will experience those plateaus where you will not see the gains, but trust because it's been proven that you will get those gains. In the book, he notes the British cycling team and said that they had only won maybe one Olympic gold up to this point. I think it was 2003. And they hired a coach, someone that was able to take them through a whole nother process. And this is where they began with the aggregation of marginal gains, that 1%. So this new coach now came in and said, okay, we're going to look for all the areas where we can make a 1% improvement, just 1%. We're not going to throw out the whole system. We're going to look to see where can we improve just 1% margin. So they looked at the bedding that they had, the mattress, the pillows that they slept on so they could get better sleep. They looked at their outfit and the fabric they were made from and tested them in wind tunnels to see how can we streamline their speed. They looked at the seats on the bikes. How can we make them more comfortable when they're riding? They put rubbing alcohol on the tires for better traction. There were so many things that they did, just small things, that over time, by the next Olympics in 2008, it said that they won 60% of the gold medals, 60% from ever in their entire history of the club, only having ever gotten one. Now they had 60% from 2003, what was it, 2008, because they made these incremental adjustments. And then from when they went on to what the next one was 2012, they set countless records. They said it was the best that they've ever seen from any group in improvements. You can read it about it in Atomic Habits. Just amazing results. So when we're looking at these small adjustments and thinking that it's not really going to add up to anything, it's going to add up to your organization, you and your organization achieving results that will blow your mind. That will blow your mind. We're too often looking for the big leaps and bounds. We want dramatic returns. We want to say or do one thing, have a meeting, and we expect some transformation in the organization. But that's not the reality. And those are the type of things that sometimes when we're pushing from leadership, that we miss the people that are the boots on the ground that are actually between us and our client. And then the product is slowed down or the quality is down, or you're constantly hiring new people because they're so burnt out that they're quitting. You're losing good talent. The cost of turnover is astronomical. It's something that we want to look at and say, how can you improve? Remember, it's just 1% on a given area. And we're consistently making those improvements. So we can all learn to communicate better. We can all learn to kind of be more patient, be better listeners, be more empathetic, can be more encouraging, can, look at our process and our business cycle and say, how can we streamline this and make it just 1% better? How can we make this product or service 1% better? And we're constantly doing that. And then having buy-in from the teams and the groups, because they're at the table hoping to develop that 1% process. Now, the transformation, not just of your products and service, that's going to come, but through the employees and the organization that you're running. So we want to remember, we can't jump over the employees to get to a great product or service. We have to utilize, and it's the employees that we have that are going to enable us to get those gains and that growth, and for your product and service to become one of the best in the world. So adapting this 1% leadership mindset is going to transform you, transform your business. Thank you for watching. And if this resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on leadership and business transformation.